What would it take for you to leave everything behind? I mean everything, and start over. Build a whole new world from absolute scratch. Well, today, we're going to dive into the story of a community that did exactly that. A community that built a new life, not on sand, but on the solid rock of a sacred promise.
Just listen to that sentence. It really captures the entire soul of this story, doesn't it? It's not just about the start of a new day. It's about a completely new way of life. One where the simple sound of a bell means you're safe, you're home, and not that you need to run.
So let's start there. Let's look at one single morning that, for the people of the Manitoba colony, was anything but ordinary. This was the moment their new reality finally clicked into place. So picture the scene, right? You've got these simple adobe homes, little gardens with fences, you see chickens scattering across the road, kicking up dust, and kids walking with their school slates. These might sound like really small, everyday details, but for this community, every single one was a symbol of victory. Each slate, each fence post was a tiny piece of a life they could finally call their own.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Think about the massive psychological shift this represents. I mean, they went from being fugitives, literally always looking over their shoulder, to being the architects of their own future. They were no longer just guests, living in someone else's land, by someone else's rules. They were home. They were building their world their way.
So how do you make sure that kind of freedom actually lasts? How do you protect it? Well, you give it structure. And this community, they didn't just stumble into freedom. They sat down together and wrote the actual rules that would define and defend it.
And the setting here is just so important. This wasn't some decree handed down from a king in a palace. This was a communal act. It was the elders gathered in a humble little schoolhouse with their Bibles and notebooks spread out on the table. They were building this thing from the ground up, together.
And what they created was something called the Ordnung. Now, it's really important to get this right. This was not just a list of laws. Think of it more like a covenant, a living agreement they made with each other and with their God. It was designed to guide every single part of their lives, from how they prayed to how they farmed their land.
And when you look at the promises they made, you can see exactly what they were trying to protect. You see this deep focus on faith. Church every single Sunday, no exceptions. A fierce commitment to their culture. School was only to be taught in German. And you see a clear line being drawn between them and the outside world. No radios, no outside newspapers, nothing that could dilute what they were building.
In this quote from their bishop, this is the whole key. To an outsider, you or me, these rules might look like a restrictive wall, right? Something designed to keep people in and the world out. But for them, it was the complete opposite. This wasn't a wall. It was a foundation. A solid, stable base they could build their entire future on, without fear of it crumbling.
Okay, so they have their foundation, their ordinal. But what did that actually look like day to day? How did these big ideas translate into their real lives?
While the first and maybe most powerful impact was seen in the schoolhouse. For the very first time, the children were being taught in German, their mother tongue. This was so much more than just education. For them, this was about cultural survival.
I mean, the difference was just night and day. Before, there was this constant fear of a government inspector showing up unannounced, forcing them to teach things they didn't believe in. Now there was this deep, profound security. The security of knowing they were the ones passing down their heritage, in their own language, in a system they built with their own hands.
And the other pillar of their new life, of course, was the church. Their very first service of Advent in this new land, that wasn't just a religious ceremony. It was a declaration of independence. Right there, in that simple room, surrounded by quiet fields, they were affirming who they were and what they believed.
And the bishop's sermon just tied it all together. He chose this verse from Romans, and you can see why. This wasn't some abstract idea for them. It was their actual lived experience. They had literally escaped a spirit of bondage to fear, and now they had received a spirit of adoption. They were finally children of this new land.
But to really, truly understand the heart of all this, we have to get personal. And we can, thanks to a journal kept by a woman named Anna. Her words give us this incredibly intimate look into the soul of this new colony.
For Anna, freedom wasn't some grand philosophical concept. It was real. It was tangible. It was the simple freedom to wake up and live your day without someone telling you what to do. The freedom to teach your own kids, to pray in your own language, and to bury your loved ones in soil that was actually yours.
And you can just feel the immense personal cost of that freedom in her words. She's not talking about the stuff they gave up, the soft beds or fine roofs. The real pain was leaving people behind. But even with that pain, there's no regret. Just this quiet, powerful conviction that they did what they had to do.
And this is the line that reframes the entire story. She wants everyone who comes after to understand this wasn't an escape. They weren't running away from something in fear. No, this was a pilgrimage. They were deliberately and purposefully walking toward the one thing that mattered most in their lives.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about for ourselves. The Manitoba colony built this whole foundation to protect their faith, their family, and their culture. So if you had to do the same, if you had to write your own personal ordinance, what rules would you write to build a foundation for the things that you value most?